and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end, so please submit your questions. I'm pleased to be joined today by Raymond Demizo, co-CEO at Creo, and Dr. Jackie, principal investigator from Crean. Raymond, do you want to kick it off from here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brooke. You can go to the next slide. So I'll start with a general observation. I assume most of the people on this call are familiar with the state of clinical research in Africa, so I might not be telling you anything you don't already know. But a significant part of the disease burden globally is in Africa, but only 4% of clinical trials are done in Africa, and obviously a very small percentage in Kenya itself. Some of the challenges include local regulatory timelines, which may or may not be within the control of clinical research sites. But one thing that is in the control of the clinical research site community is a perception by sponsors that the infrastructure, the research site infrastructure is not mature or advanced. And one of the components of that is a general lack of technology adoption. So there tends to be a reliance, from what we can understand, that there are a lot of paper processes. There are necessarily a lot of mature EHR systems to perform patient identification at scale. So today we're going to talk about technology for clinical research sites and how that can elevate the performance of clinical research sites and in turn attract more trials to Africa. You go to the next slide. So I think, the photos on the left should be familiar. This is how a lot of clinical research sites conduct their trials through paper source binders, paper regulatory binders, handwritten signatures. And over there on the right is an example of how clinical research can be conducted with the right technology. These are screenshots of the Creo software system, but the whole advantage of software is to organize data, to organize workflows, to make things more efficient and easier, and to allow people to collaborate remotely without being in the same place. So when we talk about clinical research technology or technology for research sites, what specifically are we talking about? If you go to the next slide. There are basically 6 workflows or modules you can think about. Recruiting, scheduling, and finance up at the top often come together and are called CTMS or Clinical Trial Management System. And the ones at the bottom are some of the more recent, within the past 10 years, types of technology. But really quickly, recruiting is basically the ability to store large amounts of patient data to basically run recruiting campaigns. So you can store basic medical, clinical information about patients and use that to identify recruitment campaigns, qualify patients, make scheduled call outreach, record conversational notes, do schedule follow-up. Scheduling is a calendar itself, and one of the challenges, as you know, in clinical research is that the visits have to be performed within windows, and that can be extremely difficult to manage manually. So a good software system will help automate the calculation of the visit windows. It should be able to tell you when the next visit should be scheduled for patients that are in a clinical trial. Finance is something that can and should be automated. Clinical research data, receivables collection is very difficult, very challenging. You have to keep track of what you've done. If you don't keep track of what you've done and invoice properly, you will leave money on the table as a clinical research site. So having a system that can track receivables, payables, invoices, payments is critical. And then at the bottom, you have eSource, which I'm going to get to in a minute. That's the most important module, in my opinion. The next is eRegulatory, which is the regulatory binders, investigator site files. This is basically replacing those large paper binders with digital binders and circulating documents for electronic signature. And then, of course, reporting, which means that if you are running a research site, you have access to operational reports, financial reports. You know exactly how your site is performing. You can build in alerts. You can make projections and forecasts. It's just critical to run an operation that's as complex as clinical research. If you go to the next slide, Brooke. eSource is I think the most important workflow for clinical research sites because it deals with the core data collection that sites are responsible for. So instead of capturing data on paper charts and building, worksheets on Word documents based on the protocol, you can build essentially electronic versions of that. So you still have to take the protocol and convert that to a series of procedures and required data forms. But with an electronic source, you can have much better quality control. So you can design structured questions that have set single choice or multiple choice options. You can put in instructions. You can put alerts in. So if the staff selects, the coordinator picks one option, maybe the protocol calls for a certain type of data to be collected or certain actions to be taken. You can build all those alerts in to let people know as they collect the data what needs to be done or what the implications are. Data formatting, for instance, if you want to have someone collect the date, it's very easy to, forget that today is the 31st. Yesterday was the 30th. People make mistakes all the time. With a software system, you can just hit the button today and it'll put in today's date automatically in the proper format. This system can keep track of what you've completed, whether you've completed all the procedures in the visit, just some of the procedures, some questions. There might be a reason you left a question blank or a procedure blank. That's fine. The system will let you know, and a system like Creo will let you reschedule. So you can have a visit being conducted today. You get 10 procedures done, you have 5 left. You can schedule another appointment on Monday or Tuesday and then open up the source template here and then just fill in the remaining 5 procedures. You know exactly the status of all of the data. You can have audit trails, so you never have to sign or date. It knows what your login is, and every data point can now be attributed to the user that collected it. Branching logic, right? That means you collect one data point here. If you say yes, it means you have to answer these questions. You say no, it means you have to answer these other questions. Um, Historical views, progress notes. There's a lot of features here. And the point is that what the power of eSource is that it makes the data quality extremely high. It reduces protocol deviations. It will save a lot of time for research sites because if you can collect the data properly at the beginning, you save a lot of time having to correct and recorrect the data. And your monitors, and this is critical for sponsors, can log in and view the data remotely. They don't have to complete all of their monitoring on site. If they can't review all the data, they can always go back to the hotel room. And that's something that monitors figure out pretty quickly, and they start to appreciate the power of eSource. So you go to the next slide, Brooke. If you had a technology suite that did all of these modules, these are the kinds of things that benefits that you would get. Higher quality data, you ought to be able to save money. You'll be replacing paper and all the cost of paper. But more importantly, you'll be getting a lot of time back, and time is money. The more time you free up, the more patients you can process. Every patient you process is essentially revenue for your research site. Um, I would say, in terms of winning studies from sponsors, I can say with some confidence now that, at least in the United States, sites that have adopted eSource are generally given preferential selection. I can say that with confidence. And that is the eSource is starting to spread in other countries. I'll talk about the sort of global adoption in a minute. You should be able to recruit more patients because you have the patient recruiting workflow. And more importantly, you can centralize operations. You can work anywhere. You can work remotely. You can oversee visits. You don't have to be on site to see what's going on at your research site. So it's very, very powerful. It will modernize your ability. It will allow you to grow, allow you to scale. And over time, this is the type of technology investment that should elevate and make African sites a lot more competitive for global site selection. You know, the next slide. Um, so this is a map of where Creo has been adopted. We started in the United States. We have a large presence in the United States and Canada, but we're in about 30 countries now. And outside the US is our fastest growing market. And what we've observed is that we have seen examples of countries where we see a significant amount of adoption. So, for instance, Brazil. We have a large presence in Brazil, probably 30 or 40 institutions and hospitals utilize the Creo eSource system. Romania, we have maybe 15% penetration in Romania. Germany, United Kingdom, Australia. And there's nothing really special about Brazil or Romania or Poland or United Kingdom. It's just that I think what's happened is that some sites adopted it early and then sort of word of mouth spread. Other sites saw that and they started doing that. So we're starting to see certain countries have significant adoption of the technology. But this is a big world, and we're trying to make sure that people are aware of Creo, of the software systems that are out there, and generally what the technology can do. Because of our commitment to grow globally, in Q1 of 2026, by end of March of 26, we should have fully translated versions of our software in 6 different languages: English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, German, and Polish. And that is a user setting. So if you are a French speaker, you can select the French flag, and the entire software system will be done in French. You can design the source templates in French. The calendar, the dates are all date, month, year format, the globally accepted format. So this can absolutely work with different languages, different environments. And we have a 24/7 help center that we've set up for many years now that is capable of answering questions at any time of day. So it's not limited to US business hours, but it's open all the time. And really importantly, we have servers around the world. Our sites in Africa prefer the European server, which means that the data is local to Europe, and GDPR, which is a very robust privacy protection guidelines apply to all of our data. And it also means that because of the geographic distance, the speed and the is a little bit faster for people. So basically, we can pick a server that's local or nearby to the country that we're serving. And it's our commitment to make sure that our software is fully global. Research is global. Research is the same everywhere. And I very much appreciate all of you taking the time to join this. Whether you become a Creo client or not, the most important thing is that you be aware that there is a lot of technology being adopted by clinical research sites. And as an example of what that looks like, we've invited Dr. Jackie to present on Crean's experience adopting and incorporating Creo at her site network. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Jackie. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your experience was like, and why you adopted technology and how that worked out.
Okay, thank you, Raymond, and greetings to everyone. My name is Dr. Jacqueline Mirera from Clinical Research Health Network. Another name is CREAN, to just make it simple. So CREAN is a health research institute that was founded in 2020 with operation starting in 2021 with presence in Kenya and Rwanda. And our goal is simple yet very ambitious: to bring clinical research closer to communities that are often left out in the global research conversation. So we strategically set our sites in regions that are underrepresented, but also in regions where still we have clinical trials going on, but also complementing the already existing ecosystem. Please go back to the previous slide. I haven't completed. And the other thing that we do is, or what we would want to achieve, is also to democratize access to clinical research while we set up our sites, and also looking at expanding into sub-Saharan Africa. As Raymond presented, we only have a representation of 4% of clinical trials being conducted in Africa and 0.15% in Kenya. Yet we contribute to a huge part of the disease burden globally. So there's need to keep expanding. And as we come into this space of conducting clinical trials, we have faced challenges as other sites have faced challenges. For example, we have fragmentations of how we do our studies in terms of how do we implement our studies. We have each team working independently, and then we have to converge into meetings to be able to understand what is the clinical team doing? What is the community engagement team doing? And this then brings in a slow process in the information flow, which might again influence or bring in inefficiency, which is seen by stakeholders as slow. So when we got into this space, we thought then, why not embrace technology from inception? Why not go into a digital space why can't we have a digital platform where we can be able to monitor all our activities? And the other thing that we look at, and Raymond has mentioned it, global research now is global. So we should be able to align to the world-class standards and have multi-site trials. But we can't be able to achieve that if we still have the traditional way of doing things, that is paper source. I think you've seen from Raymond's slide, and you will see that we always have huge binders, be it participant binders, be it the regulatory binders. And we still have to create storage spaces. We have to create a format of how do we retrieve these documents, or how do we retrieve each binder, naming the investigator site files. So when we thought of all that process, then we thought, why can't we embrace technology to be able to improve, first unify our operations, improve quality, and also just to allow real-time oversight. And this can only be achieved where you have a digital platform where you incorporate all your activities as you conduct a study. So we sourced a partner, and we found Creo to be a suitable partner. And Creo has been our partner from inception, as much as we did not launch immediately, but they have been our digital transformation partner. And we have now fully integrated their digital system into every layer of our research workflow. So what this means is we have, as has been presented before, we took up the whole stack, that is the CTMS, whereby we have participant activity tracking and the financial management. We also have the eSource, where we have real-time data capture, validation, and compliant data collection. We also have the eReg, where we do streamlined regulatory documentation, whereby we have digital study binders for each study. And also this makes us audit ready whenever we want to just reference and see how we aligned our documents correctly. So the digital foundation has allowed us as Crean to be able to have high quality and auditable studies. And we also anticipate to conduct decentralized trials with this system. And while at it, we also look to building efficiency, transparency, and trust among our stakeholders. The reason is because it's an open system, and any stakeholder who comes to work with us, they can be able to access this system and see how we are collecting data real time. So can move to the next slide. So what has been the implementation results? The use of Creo technology within the Crean ecosystem has been a transformative journey for us. We've been able to manage studies across each study life cycle, that is from the startup to the closeout. So by the time you're launching a study, you're able to understand what stage of the study are we in. The moment you actually receive a feasibility and you've been selected to conduct that study, you quickly dive into the Creo system, and you're able to add the study and just put all the elements of the study. What is the protocol title? What is the protocol number? Which regulatory authority do you want to use? With ethics committee do you want to use? When did you actually conduct the site selection visit? So there's a whole listing of what you'd want, those key elements that you want to understand for a study. It helps you to monitor from the start to the closeout. And the other thing that it has allowed us is to be able to run and monitor multiple studies simultaneously. You're not limited to run only one study in the system. You're able to run multiple studies at different stages. And this gives you visibility and consistency at every stage. The other thing that it does, even as you're running those multiple studies, it gives you a dashboard where you're able to see which participants are coming in today. You can be able to link it to your personal calendar as a site and say, these are the patients who are scheduled today, and you're able to get alerts. It's a whole system that is incorporated to be able just to monitor how the study is running. In terms of data quality, this has improved significantly because we have a standardized way of building studies per protocol, per schedule of assessment, and we have built-in audit trails that support real-time quality checks. So we would not question what happened here, what did not happen here, who did it. through the audit trails, you are able to see what is going on. Even when you change, when you're launching a study, you usually do a configuration. Even the configuration has an audit trail. So you're able to see at what point did we need to change what. So this helps a lot in terms of quality checks and quality assurance so that we don't lose track of every study activity. And using the Creo technology has also saved time and space. As I've mentioned before, you're able to do things real time. You can set up, you don't have to set up long meetings to be able to integrate the team to understand where are we with what. We can be able to see who are the pre-screened participants, who are in screening, who have been enrolled, who have already received who are in the treatment phase, who are in the maintenance phase, or what studies in what stage. So when you just log in at one point, you just see all this information. And I mean, it has been able to reduce space in terms of we don't have to have huge binders and print source documents for each upcoming visit. You just need to log into the system, see this patient is coming in for visit 2, and you can proceed and conduct your visit 2 without, having all the hassle of saying, oh, maybe you even printed the wrong version of the source document. We're also eliminating the redundant paper processes and, essentially just streamlining the team's workflow. So everybody can sit in their workstation and monitor what is happening. The patient has been registered. The patient now is at the nursing desk. The patient now is, we're in dispensing, we're in the pharmacy space. Now we are moving to lab. So, and the way the system also works is in terms of streamlining processes. Just to mention that it is role, each person can be assigned to their own role. So the nurse cannot complete the clinical person's module. Each person can actually complete their modules. And once they complete, now the next person picks up. So you cannot have people making mistakes in terms of entering the wrong data in the wrong module. It is very specific, and this is how the site would set it up. So the other thing that is also that we have mentioned before is the patient recruitment and monitoring the activity of the patients in terms of where they are in each stage of the study. So you can see where the patients are, how the patients are flowing. And again, the most important module that you'd want to see is also the finance module, where we have real-time revenue recognition. You can be able to see the financial controls. You can see what are the revenue projections. You can be able to create invoices in this system without having the finance team going aside to monitor their tools. So the finance team are incorporated in the system as well to see where are we in terms of implementing the study, what visits have been covered, and what would be the possible projections. And we can even be able to create reports. And this is for all the studies that will be implemented and have been built into the study. The other thing is remote monitoring. I will not delve into that more, but the most important is also having the PI oversight, where a PI would be able to is able to have oversight of the operations of the site. So the PI is able to see what is going on, what is being implemented, without having to, call in for long meetings and bringing all the teams and bringing all these binders. Can we go through binders? Can we go through each source document for each particular visit, for each particular patient? You just need to scroll into the system and see what particular visit do you want to see. You can put in your comments and the team can get alerts and respond. There's response, there's communication within the system, and this remains in the system so we can see what did we actually say for a particular participant. So the PA is able to give oversight and understand what is going on, continuous data review, and proactive issue resolution. And just to mention, this is a whole mouthful, and we can actually talk the whole day on what it is. But just to give you that it's not an easy process, but it's achievable. So while we were getting into this space, not that we did not see challenges. We had a few challenges where there was a bit of hesitancy from the site team or the site staff. We also had some stakeholders being very cautious about shifting into a digital platform, because if you look at the African setup, it's usually just paper. That's the traditional way of doing things. So there was a bit of hesitancy in terms of how will you move into the digital space? How will you actually implement that? How will it work? Do you have internet where your sites are? But it has been a smooth process by wanting to. What we did is adapt training. We had a lot of engagement and we had a lot of clear leadership direction. With that, then we've been able to improve swiftly and steadily as we adapt this system. And the other thing that we did is have weekly follow-ups and, align to our site operating procedures. And the other thing that we did, most importantly, is assign digital champions. So digital champions would go ahead, be the biggest learners in the system, be the biggest implementers of adapting the system, and then they'll be the one who then, they're the ones who would then teach the rest of the team or guide the rest of the team on what to do whenever there are challenges. And today, what we have seen is a change whereby we've seen the site staff are being more adaptable. They have loved the system. It has made work easier. It is user friendly. It is efficient. It is reliable, and even the monitors are appreciating that it is a good system because wherever they are seated, they can be able to just get into the system and see then what is it that we need, and we can solve it from each space, whichever space they are in. They don't have to wait to come to site to be able to, look into huge binders and then we sort the issues. In terms of measured impact, what I can say is it has been transformative because now we have a centralized oversight system. I mean, anybody who is in this system, according to their role, they can be able to see then what is going on for each particular study that is concerning them. If it's the finance team, they can be able to have oversight of the financials. If it's the PI, they can be able to see what is it that I need to do. How the studies moving. People can be assigned duties. They can be assigned progress notes to review. So that oversight is so important in terms of, creating efficiency for the entire team. And then there's also instant visibility for the investigators, for the sponsors. This makes it very easy for decision making. Yeah. So this digital foundation has also improved quality, data quality, efficiency, and compliance. And this gives us a huge an easy recognition as a value site and a transparent site and a site that is ready to be able to implement trials. So we can move to the next slide, Brooke. And as we move to the next slide, just want to talk on how this implementation was and the support we received from CREO. So what I can say is while we did implement CREO, it was not, Brooke, move to the previous slide, please. It was not a plug and play. We had to get into a structured and practical and collaborative span of activities to be able to do this. And this took about 2 to 4 months to be able to do this. We had a structured onboarding where we had an introductory meeting, and we had live sessions, that is trainings, and we had a 24/7 support system. We also had access to the CREO Academy, and the entire process was seamless and very purposeful in terms of how we are engaging into the trainings. And this was also geared to see that each team member, according to their role, they are able to understand what is it that they need to do in the system, because the system usually gives you role assigned access. So the training was very well structured to be able to see that the entire team understands the whole system. That is, so there was core training for the entire team, but we also had specific trainings for particular teams so that they can understand their system. For example, the finance, it was for the finance team only. And then, of course, access to the academy. This made it very easy to continue learning. And for us as a site, what we have done is say that every 2 years, we will do the renewal so that we don't miss on anything that is coming forth, anything new. As much as we get the alerts, we have to get the certification every 2 years. And what stood out most was that CREO's implementation is not about just technology alone. It is about helping us build a culture of digital readiness, compliance, and efficiency across our sites so that we can be able to be globally ready for research that is coming our way. And the lessons that we have learned as we do collaborate with CREO is that digital transformation must be anchored in training, governance, and we have to have standard operating procedures that are aligned to this system as site. The other thing that we have seen is that a responsive and supportive technology partner accelerates sustainability. And this has been the journey with the Creo. Up to now, we still have check-in meetings just to see, are we okay? And anytime we need any help, we just need to go in and call or just do the live chat, which can be able to give us responses, or we can be able to even accelerate if the issue is not being solved real time. The other thing is for Africa, digital innovation is not a luxury. As Raymond mentioned, for us to have that global feel, for us to be a global site or a site that is can be seen is compliant to the global clinical research ecosystem, we have to get into the digital space. Therefore, digital innovation is not a choice, it's not luxury, but it's just part of what we need to move into to be able to go into bridging equitable participation in global research. In closing, our journey shows that Africa does not need to wait. We have to be the ones innovating or be part of the innovation, and we are already doing that. Yeah, and technology allows us to break the silos, that is being able to bring the different teams to work in a centralized manner. We can be able to strengthen equity. We can be able to operate within global standards. So for Korean, digital innovation has not been a choice for convenience. It's been a commitment to credibility and inclusion. Our journey demonstrates that when digital systems are integrated thoughtfully, you have to be very purposeful and thoughtful in the process. It's not just for the sake of it. Then our African sites can lead global standard trials with transparency, speed, and inclusivity. Then we can attract more clinical trials in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have been getting a lot of questions during the conversation, and I have been answering them as they've come in. But I think we're definitely absolutely open to questions and answers if anyone has additional questions. And in front of you is my email address. For the moderators, will this presentation be made available to the participants? We're happy to distribute this.
Yes, this session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our website and also our YouTube pages. Participants to visit and just for reference and see everything, but you can also share a copy of your slides with us and we'll be able to share as well.
Hi, Raymond. I have a question for you and Brooke. Is it possible, and I understand if it's not possible, do you guys have maybe a small quick demo that you can show the people so they can understand how it
Yeah.
works?
Yeah, we actually have one of our colleagues, Harrison, is actually participating. And I think we just need to do we have to elevate him to a panelist?
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sharing my screen. Is it possible to make Harrison Galusha a panelist?
Yeah. Nelson, are you able to promote him to panelist so he can be able to do a demonstration?
Yes, on it. Harrison,
Thank
you
you
should
so
be
much.
a prompt on your screen.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Harris.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you. I'll let you take over.
Yes, absolutely. I'll share my screen.
we have a demo site set up, so we won't be revealing any actual real names.
All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Yep. So as Raymond said, I am in a demo organization right now, and I chose a study just to give a preview of what Creo looks like. This is the Studies tab, and I went into, I'm going to pick one at random here. This is the overview tab of the study here in the demonstration. The first tab is the overview tab. I'm able to see information about the study, such as protocol number, study type, description, nickname. I'm also able to edit the study status as this one is enrolling, but I could go ahead and edit it as configuring, maintenance, closed, suspended, etc. If I go into the subjects tab, this is where, actually, let me take a step back. The configure tab is where I want to start basically when I am creating a study from scratch. I will configure the visit schedule. So the visit schedule would be the first step in creating the study. I would be able to select the visits that need to be created. I would be able to select my anchors that these visits need to be going off of. So I would create my visit schedule, and then I would go into add procedures. The add procedures, these are going to be all of the study procedures that are created. This one, as an example, I would select a category for the procedure, and then I would I would enter in the questions with a variable and then answer those questions as needed. So here we have one that I can actually enter in the data. This one is yes or no. I can get procedure alert logic. I can disable questions. This is all able to be set up using the configuration for the studies. And then finally, I do have the option to go into the subjects tab. In the subjects tab, I have a few subjects already set up. I would be able to add a new subject as needed. I'll go into this profile as an example. Here in the subject profile, I have the subject information at the top, and then I have the visit schedule. I'm able to directly schedule my visit. I'll schedule a visit for today. And then I can go back into the subject profile and actually start my visit. This is exactly what it looks like to complete the visit. The procedures here, I guess I don't have any set up for this particular visit, but I would be able to complete the procedures as I had shown, and then I would be able to enter the subject status, any of the change reasons, and then go ahead and complete my visit as needed. So really just following the steps one by one to make sure that the visit is completed successfully. I will go back into my subject profile and I can actually see that these visits have been completed. I can go into my visit details. I can look at each procedure that I have completed and review any of the details that I need to. I can leave comments directly to my colleagues. I can leave a progress note as needed to explain any deviations. And then most importantly, I'm able to see exactly who answered the question and when they answered that question. And then finally, once that visit has been reviewed, the investigator sign off is available for the PI to approve and sign off on the visit.
Now, let's say, Harrison, if the PI signs off on the visit and the data might change, right? Our system will automatically put that back in the queue for PI to sign off again. So it's got this built-in PI oversight functionality to make sure that the PI signature is always up to date.
Yep, that's correct. So in the dashboard, I do actually have this, in this particular example, I am not assigned as the PI, but if I were the PI, I would be able to see any of the documents that I need that are routed to me for signature. And then as Raymond mentioned, I'm able to see the visits that I need to complete, as well as the visits that I need to sign off on. Raymond,
Do you want to show the financials quickly, Harrison?
Yep, no problem. All right, so the financial section, there's a few other modules, as you can see, these tabs. So in the budgets tab, I am actually able to go into financials. I can actually configure a budget myself. As I'm pretending in this test study, I'll just go ahead and start. Actually, I won't start from scratch. I'll go ahead and enter the study that I had already created and shown before. But in the financials module, I am able to configure several different things. The first item is going to be revenue. So I am actually able to edit and save any of the stipends that need to be saved, any of the base revenue, screen fail revenue, and then procedure level revenue as well. Again, very simple. I'm able to enter the amount directly, and those amounts will show in the reporting once those visits are completed or the procedures are completed. So I can complete the urine pregnancy test, the informed consent, and this revenue will be attributed to those procedures that are completed.
And oh, stay there, go back to that screen, Harrison. One important feature, and obviously we can't show you all the features, but I just want to give you an example of how this can make your life easier. If you look at urine pregnancy tests, there was a question called, was a repeat urine pregnancy test performed? So the way to build the e-source would be if the first urine pregnancy test is positive, you may have to repeat. So you build the branching logic in, and now the coordinator says, yes, I've done a repeat test. You now know that because the answer in e-source is yes, you now know that you did that repeat test. So you can put a receivable or patient stipend amount or any type of financial implication or event outcome to the answers to the questions. So your coordinators just fill this in. And as they fill it in, your financials become up to date. So you know what you're owed. And this demo is in dollars, but we support different currencies. So you can actually select the currency. And actually the currency can be selected differently for studies. So I'm not familiar if you're always paid in your local currency or you might get paid in euros. But if you have a sponsor paying you in euros, a sponsor paying you in dollars, a sponsor paying you in your local currency, you can customize the currency for each study.
Yep, that is correct. And just so everyone can see, in the overview tab of the study, this is actually where you'd be able to set up the currency, and I can edit this from dollars to any of the currencies that we have available here.
And we'll add it if it's not there. That's not a
Yep.
problem.
Perfect. All right. The next section that is able to be configured in the finance module is going to be cost. So any costs that are attributed to the study, I would be able to enter the vendors that these costs would be associated with per visit. Once again, you're able to add in the cost, the base costs, screen fail costs, any procedure costs, very similar to how we set up the revenue, as Raymond said. There is the option for costs as well to add in advanced logic where you can ask a question and then based on the answer, you can determine those costs for the study, for those procedures. I'll go ahead and save those changes. We have an invoices section. So for invoiceable expenses, we are able to go through, we can add a general invoice recipient. We can add a general bill from. This is more widely used because generally the bills might be coming from the same place. And then as you scroll down, you are able to actually enter in any invoiceable expenses. These are going to be some examples here: marketing and advertising, protocol amendments. We have three different options for the frequency of those invoiceable expenses. We have one-time invoiceable expenses, we have per occurrence, and then we have up to a certain amount. So those are pretty self-explanatory, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the invoiceable expenses. And then we have the forecast tab as well. So the forecasting module is allowing you to determine the revenue that you foresee this study attributing in the future. So I am able to go through my revenue forecast. I can enter in the revenue that I am forecasting for each visit, as well as the percentage that I am expecting each visit to be completed at. So the percentage of subjects that are going to be completing each of these visits. And then I'm actually able to enter in my enrollment targets as well. So I am able to enter in for each month, since the study was started in CREO, so January 2025 for this example, I'm able to enter in for each month the expected or forecasted number of subjects that I expect to enroll. Couple of other items to show here in the finance module. The invoices tab, I am actually able to add a completely new invoice. When I add my new invoice, I am actually able to use this pull-out bar here. Any of the visits that have been completed and configured in the finance module, I can actually add these to an invoice automatically. Let's say I need to add the visit threes that are listed here. So I will add each of these visit threes. I will just simply select add to invoice, and these are automatically attributed to the invoice. I can also add in a manual line item, so I can add in the date. I can add in the item name, the description of the item, and then the amount. So the manual option is available as well for the invoicing. I'll go ahead and press save for this invoice, and then I'm able to actually attribute a payment to the invoice. So I can go ahead and add a payment, and I'll attribute the payment there. The very last thing to show you is where that payment came from. In the reconciliation tab, I am able to add new payment. I'm able to add a check, direct deposit, credit debit, credit memo, or refund. I can add these payments. I can add a date issued, date received, the payment number, the amount, and then I will be able to click into these payments and actually see which visits have been applied to the reconciliation. So again, very simple to go through and actually just select the visits that need to be reconciled to this particular payment. And then I can actually see that this number has grown and is attributed to the $10,000 total for this particular payment. Anything else you want me to cover? Just Raymond?
And Raymond, there was a question asked by one of the audience members about whether or not you could address how an unscheduled visit would be handled, like, for example, for an adverse event. And it looked like it was probably referring to how that would be handled on the eSource side of things.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
okay.
maybe progress note, if you can show a progress note, Harrison.
Yeah,
I don't know if adverse events has been built out in the test study you have.
I can do that. So in the visit details, so I went into the eSource again and I actually selected a visit that had already been completed. In the eSource section, I'm actually able to add progress notes for each procedure. So I am actually able to add a progress note for any of the procedures. If there was an adverse event, this procedures actually exist in the visit itself. I could add a progress note, and then I could also add a visit level progress note as well. If you were to save a progress note as a draft, that progress note would only be seen internally until you decide to publish that progress note, and then it will be visible to external users. Just a couple of other things I just want to quickly mention as well. The unscheduled visit, if I needed to create an unscheduled visit, I could do so very easily. And I can actually select an unscheduled visit. I know we just mentioned adverse events, but I could add an unscheduled visit and only select the adverse events procedure. I could save that procedure, and then let me show you what it looks like. The unscheduled visit is going to show here in the visit schedule. You will see an exclamation point that is just to show that the visit is unscheduled. And then I can start the visit just as I normally would for any other visit. I can actually just go ahead and complete. I'll save and continue, and then
Oh,
complete
just a
the visit.
quick note, Harrison. Go back to the adverse events. So obviously you wouldn't do an unscheduled visit for adverse events if there hasn't been a change. But notice how we handle adverse events. The subject logs below will always show you the current list of adverse events. So we know that as a coordinator, when you ask patients about adverse events or concomitant medication changes, you can't really do it unless you see what the current list is. So we'll always take that list, put it inside the visit, and have that exact same question, have there been changes? So when you ask the patient if there have been changes, you can see right in front of you what you're referring to. And if you confirm no changes, you hit no changes, you get credit for completing that procedure in that visit. But if there have been changes, you have to make additions, edits, you say yes, and then it opens up the log, and then you can add a record or delete a record or change information. So that is obviously very specific to clinical research site workflows, right? Most EDC systems, the logs are outside of the visit. So if you have to update medications or adverse events, you might forget because you just completed the visit part only and you forgot about the running logs. But we put the running logs inside the visit itself.
Perfect. I will go ahead and complete this visit. And then once again, I'm able to go into my visit schedule. I'll go ahead and refresh my screen. And I can see that this unscheduled visit has been completed. And I can see the exact same things that I mentioned before, and I can add a progress note as needed.
Harrison, click on Show External User View up at the top right. So this is an external user in the Creo system is a monitor who is not part of the site. And there's a separate place here where you can put the email address for the monitor. This tells you what the monitor sees. The monitor won't see the patient name. We anonymize it. So the only way the monitor will see private information they shouldn't see is if you have to put in the progress note or something. I mean, you'd have to be user error. But you have a your own view, which is internal to your site, and then there is a monitor view, which is external for CRAs.
Harrison, maybe you could go to the dashboard for organization, where I think it shows how you assign the internal and external users.
Oh, sure. Yep. So in the organization tab does have two different tabs. You are able to add users into the system. Users is going to be any internal users. So for example, we have Raymond here. He is an internal user in Creo. He has been assigned as an investigator. The external users, as Raymond mentioned, are going to be monitors. For example, we have the example here, Creo monitor. Those can also be added the exact same way. You would go ahead and enter in their email address, their first and last name, and then any of the studies that they need access to, and they will receive an email once you select invite.
And did you show reports, Harrison? It might be good to just jump over to reports.
Okay. Yep. For reports, I'll just go into the organization tab. So for the organization tab, just as this example for the demo organization, I have multiple sites that are listed here. If I were to click into the reports tab as an admin, meaning that I have access to add users into the system, I'm monitoring, overseeing the system. If I were to click into the organization tab, these reports are available. These reports are available for all of the sites. So for example, I could go into revenue details. Revenue details is going to show me the revenue that was attributed for each visit or each procedure. Once this loads, we'll be able to see that. All right, perfect. So I'm able to see a few different things here. I can see the study, I can see the actual subject, the subject ID, and then I can see the type of revenue payment. So whether it's an invoice or an auto pay. I can also see what the item was. So if it was a visit or if it was an invoiceable expense, the service date, when it took place. I can see any of the invoicing numbers or information I need, as well as the amount, and then the total due. Along with that, I can actually filter. I can filter by site, study, an active study. I can filter by service date. There's a lot of different options there. There's several different reports here that we could go through. Um, the other one I want to show is visit details. This is another popular report that we have that is widely used in Creo. So for visit details, I'm able to filter by start date, end date, active studies, as well as the status of the visits. So if I only wanted to see completed and partially completed visits, I could do that. I can apply that filter. And then I'm actually able to see all of the visits that have been completed for this organization that have been partially or fully completed. I can see site, study, subject, subject ID, the actual visit, the visit name, as well as date, the coordinator, investigator, and the status of that visit. These reports are able to be downloaded by Excel or CSV. But yeah, there's several different reports. These would be available to the admins of the system so they can see very quickly an overview of the information they're collecting.
And there is a question in the Q&A that I think I'm just want to answer verbally because it's a little hard to do it by text. But what's the time commitment to fill the data in the system? We can't change the fact that there's a certain amount of time it takes to do the procedures, talk to patients, or read a protocol and understand it. So there's a certain like base level of work you have, but I can say with confidence, and maybe Dr. Jackie, you could comment from your experience, but the time it takes to build a source template in our system versus on paper, or the time it takes to collect data in our system versus on paper, or to get a signature digitally versus on paper, it's never more than what you're doing now, and it's usually less. And where you're going to save a lot of time is the data quality, the financial management, the reporting, just having all that information available. That's where you're going to save a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah, thank you, Raymond. I was a little lost with that question. I wasn't sure what exactly the question meant, but in terms of time, also the site can determine how do you want to capture your data. You can set up, and you have to be reasonable. You have to look at what is reasonable, because you don't want to, remember, we have to always embrace the Alcoa principles. So in the event that, first of all, you need to just remember that you have to capture data real time. And the beautiful thing about this system, it just sets you to accountability. So you cannot say, I started a visit at 10 and I collected this data and now I entered it at, say, 12 noon. That would not be acceptable. So you'd want to build up the information as soon as you acquire it. There are situations which are unique and you'd want to define that. So you'd want to have that defined in your SOPs. What are these unique situations? For instance, if you're managing an adverse event, what is the priority here? Is it managing the patient or entering data? So you'd want to stabilize the patient first, and then now you come in and enter the data, and you can just justify and say, we had a participant, we needed to, do nebulization, we needed to, ensure that they are stable, and this is the process that we took to capture this data. But in the event it's a normal visit, you'd want them to capture data in real time and not have so a gap that you can't really explain why it took that time to enter the data. I hope you're answering this question correctly, because I really struggled to understand what is this, but I hope we have given a hint of what you'd want to hear. Thank you.
I'll answer a question live. For the research data, do you store the databases? And if yes, for how long? That's an excellent question. Our standard service, which is in our contracts, is after you close a visit, we will store the data for you for 25 years. That should be enough to cover your sponsor contracts. That means that if you want to download the data, you can. You don't have to, because it's done by us electronically. So another time savings is if you're using paper, you have to, put them in a box, move them to storage. That whole thing goes away. So when you're done with a study, you just close in our system and it stays there electronically. And it's very secure. We can talk about our software system, but it's being backed up all the time. So there's no very low risk of data. I mean, you're not going to have data losses. You're not going to have breaches. It's more secure than paper, because you can lose paper. So you don't have to worry about storage. All right. I guess for the event organizers, I think we got a really good set of questions and answered. I don't know if you'd like us to continue, or do you think this is a good point at which to stop the presentation and maybe do follow-ups with people who have expressed interest?
Apologies. I had the second part. I wasn't sure that the first part was for me. I kind of missed it. If you'd like to repeat, but just to answer your second question is, if of course, if there's more discussions that can be had, we're still well within the designated time for the webinar. So we can continue if there's more.
Raymond, just see that one additional question came in the chat, which was whether or not they would need to continue to do informed consent on paper. Because I know we talked mostly about eSource and finance, but if you'd like to talk a little bit about e-consent.
Yeah, and then while I talk about that, Harrison, this is a good chance to show that. I don't know if we have it configured, we might not. But yes, our system will let you do informed consents on paper or electronically. That is your choice, and different sites will have different preferences. But you have the ability with our system to take an informed consent as a PDF, upload it with signature tags, and then from the eSource visit itself, you don't have to do a separate login. From the eSource visit itself, you can launch the signature process. So from a coordinator perspective, as you saw earlier, Harrison would start the visit and go into data collection. Exact same procedure, only there would be a link, and you would press a link, and it would send the patient a text, a link via text message, and then the patient would click on that, or they can also do by email, and then they can electronically sign, and then a coordinator can electronically sign, and that whole thing can be done electronically. So we view the informed consent as part of the data collection process. It's embedded in the workflow. Wherever we can, we try to make sure that the user doesn't have to stop what they're doing and go to another place. We understand what a research site is. We understand. We've been like, I used to run a research sites before I started this, and probably a third of our employees are former clinical research coordinators at this point. So we really, really understand research site workflows. Not sponsor workflows, site workflows. Very important. This is built for research sites.
Yep, just to go ahead and show exactly what Raymond was just saying. So I would actually upload my e-consent document. What Raymond mentioned about actually mapping the fields to the role in Creo. Here I have set up a document where I have the subject signature, the subject date, the coordinator signature, the coordinator date, and then the investigator signature and the investigator date. I am able to add and change these as needed, but I am able to map each signature to the individual. And then once I've gone ahead and configured that, I can actually go into my subject profile. I need to find one. Yep, this is perfect. I'll go ahead and schedule my visit once again. I'll schedule it for today. All right, and then I will go ahead and start my visit. Like Raymond said, for the informed consent, on the right-hand side here, you'll see launch signature. I can select launch signature, and I have the option to do it in person or remote. But either way that I select it, when I choose, for example, if I were to select remote, I am choosing to send a PIN number to access the informed consent, and I am able to email that informed consent link as well. So the user can actually sign the informed consent remotely if needed, as long as they have a phone number or email address.
So we have a question about what is the process to be licensed. So we do license our system directly to clinical research sites. What I suggest you do if you're interested in learning more is provide us your email or email us. You can email me, I don't mind. We have our business representatives. They can provide a demo, answer questions, send you over a contract, make sure you're comfortable with it. Once you sign it, we turn it on. takes a day for us to turn it on. And then we assign a what we call implementation manager. So Dr. Jackie went through this process. You have a point of contact, someone like a Harrison will provide training, answer questions, help you set up the system. We want to make sure you're successful with the system. So we put a lot into making sure that you're comfortable. Dr. Jackie mentioned SOPs. We have sample SOPs. We'll give that to you. So we give you all the resources required. Sometimes we even give our sites, for instance, language you can use to ask for reimbursement for the system from sponsors. We do that as well. We try to be as helpful as we can to make sure this is successful for you. I will say, based on all of our experience to date, we have over 550 unique client organizations representing over 2,500 research sites. So Crean is an example of one client with 4 or 5 sites. We have over 2,000 sites. I think our success rate is over 90%. Sometimes people will sign a contract start and maybe somebody leaves and they don't do it. I mean, we can't make you do it. We want to be successful. We'll give you all the resources and help that we can. But as an organization, it's your system and you have to basically embrace it. So if people try, it will be successful. And so the less than 10% of people that sign that don't stay with us long term is generally because their priorities changed, or like I said, maybe somebody left, or something happened with the site. It's yeah, so we do everything we can to make this successful for you. Yeah, there is a cost. This is not free or open source. I've seen a lot of questions in there. It is direct license. We do keep our prices in Africa significantly lower than what sites in the United States or Western Europe would pay. So we calibrate the prices to the local geography. I actually don't even know what it is off the top of my head, but we try to make it affordable. The way to think about this is that, whatever revenue you make from the pharma companies, you'll be giving us some percentage of that, 1 or 2%. We think we're very confident you'll get more than that back in terms of, how much more revenue you can generate by recruiting more patients, seeing more patients, being more productive, opening more sites, winning more studies. It's really about helping your clinical research organization grow. That's how I would view this. If you just want to keep everything the same, well, okay. But if you want to grow your business, if you want to get better, our system will help you do that. I don't know, Dr. Jackie, maybe you can expand on this as well, because I mean, you are paying us for using the system. So clearly you had to do a cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, yes, it's not free. There's a cost to it. But when you look at the big picture and look at what it would take for you to do the paper-based way, how much paper do you need to always print source documents, to print all the the SUSAs, the safety letters, the submission package. How much paper does that take, and how much storage then does that take? And does each team need to create their own tool to, put their system, to put their work in line? Does the community team need to have their own tool? The finance team, they're working on their own. Then every time we have to come for a weekly meeting to understand where are we in terms of recruitment. Community team has to report. Finance team has to be alert to just see where is this going? What does community team need? The clinical team wants to know how many patients have been scheduled. What is our expectation? So to avoid, if you look at it, when you want to just create efficiency and monitor things real time and in a very easy manner, all that cost in terms of even the psychological torture of wanting to bring people together, of wanting to understand the tool from each department. And here we have a system that gives you, a dashboard that tells you tomorrow, these are the participants who've been scheduled. You just need to log in before. I mean, it doesn't even take you 2 minutes. You log in and you can see this is it, rather than having to call and, understand who are these who are scheduled. So this, if you look into this system and look at the cost that you'd want to do each activity manually, then the cost, you save a lot. You don't really have to look at the dollars, but you look at the efficiency it creates. You also need to look at where are we going? What's the current market space? And for example, if you look at the WHO, the recently launched WHO guidance for best practice for clinical trials, what does it call for? It called for digitization of clinical research. So you really have to look at the trends, look at them where we are going and see then how are we adapting to the new trends, and not look at what is the money cost of getting into the digital space. And as I said before, we cannot not be part of the innovation story. We have to be that. We have to be present. We have to be the ones speaking the innovation, and we have to say then for us to advance, there's some things. Don't look at the expense that you have to incur money-wise, but look at the big picture that you acquire while you go into a digital space. Look at it that a sponsor can sit where they are in Europe and can ask you how many patients have you pre-screened, and all you need to tell them, log into I can give you access to our system and you can actually see this. How impressive is that, rather than always printing the pre-screening logs and completing them? Every time you have to print, complete them, and scan again. Look at all that torture. Where else you just need to enter this information and someone needs to just see this dashboard from their desk. So there's so much that you can look at in terms of cost efficiency, and what is it that you're saving in terms of improving your processes, and eventually saying that we are implementing this study in a more efficient way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dr. Jackie, you summarized it really well. This is just a different way of running operations, right? Everything will change. The way you do finances will change, the way you do scheduling, patient appointments, so many different ways, so many different processes can be automated, and everything will work together. So it's changing your mindset, and it's one of those things where once you use it, you don't want to go back. I mean, most people don't want to go back to what they were doing before they started using this. So, um, like I said, we've been in business since 2000. We started in 2016. So this is our 10th year of operation. Started in the United States. Spent most of the first 5 or 6 years selling to research sites in the United States. And in the last few years, we've got a lot of inbound interest from other countries, and that's why we decided to make this global with different languages and 24/7 help center, et cetera. Um, so how long does a module take, and how can one access it? I think you're talking about the training. So the training. So Harrison, you can probably speak to our training, but in the implementation process, our managers will do personalized training, but there's also training modules in the help center. And I believe, Harrison, what are there, like 7 or 8 different modules? I don't remember. But each module has its own video training with questions.
Yeah, I can share that. I'll share my screen again. So we do actually have the help center available for Creo. So, as Raymond mentioned, for the implementation process, you are meeting with someone like me on a weekly basis. And that is going through each module to make sure that you are learning each module to the best of your ability, asking any questions that you need to. Going into the academy section here in the help center. This is actually going to give you all of the courses that are available. Um, Sorry, that's not actually the full list. I actually have I've completed most of them, but we have several. We have eSource training available. We have eReg training. We have CTMS training, administrator training. We also have recruitment and finance training as well. And then we have training on reporting too. So these are options for you to go through the training by yourself remotely. but the implementation process does allow for, I believe, a few months. Basically you go at your pace with your implementation manager, and they talk you through every module, and ask and answer any questions that you might have.
Harrison, maybe show the resources page as well on the Help Center, and then go over live chat really quickly, because these are so we know that people will need help right away or all times, so we try to be as helpful as we can. So this is a section in our Help Center that has all of the materials that you need in one place.
Yep. Yep, exactly. The guide section here, for resources, this is actually just going to show you, each option by module. So I have training materials, which is going to show you everything. But if I had a general question about eSource, for example, I could go into the guide section here and see if any of my questions could be answered by, the eSource guides here. And I can go through, I can clearly see each topic. I can click into any of the guides, and this will show me step-by-step instructions to answer my question. One other item that I'll show you is in the document section. You are able to see, there's several different items here. There's compliance, validation. What I actually want to point to is the release notes. So obviously Creo is continuing to evolve and release new updates all the time. When we do release a new update, we actually do have enhancement notes that you can click into. And once again, these are actually step-by-step instructions. I'll go ahead and click this one, for example. This is step-by-step instructions explaining how to use this report in this case. And then to answer to another point that Raymond made was that he did mention the live chat functionality. So obviously, the support system, we have a lot of documents in the help center, but if you still have questions after that, you can actually go into the question mark down at the bottom, and you can actually choose live chat now. This is a 24/7 service that you're able to use, and it will say chat queued. I can go ahead and say, "Hi, Eric. I have a question on recruitment." Eric is going to reply back as soon as he can. So this is actually a live agent. For example, am on live chat sometimes, and Eric will go ahead and reply. I can see that he's typing right now, and Eric will reply back, letting me know that he is there to help, and I can talk through my questions with him that way.
So this is a real person, not a
Yes.
chatbot, and we did not coordinate with Eric ahead of time. This is our actual service, an example of this. And one more thing, Harrison, in the Help Center, you can show a example of like asking a question, because we have so many resources available, videos, documents, that what we did was we put an AI um, uh, answer service at front. So just if you type in a question on our functionality, oh, and it's multilingual too. So if you type it in Portuguese or French, you can go ahead and just type it in whatever language you want. But since we only know English, we'll do English. And you can ask, how do I add a patient or whatever? The system will actually, that's the AI response that you see the wheel. And then it basically gives you step by step, but then it also refers you to the different resources. So I have found, when I have questions about the system, I'll use this, and it's going to be extremely accurate 99% of the time. But like Harrison said, live chat too, you can use that anytime.
Yeah, just to
Yep.
add, from the resource center, one of the things that we really get requests for from the regulators and the CROs, and we usually are asked for validation documents for the system. So that is also there in the resource center. So it shouldn't be an issue to get the validation documents. Maybe you can just show that. Yeah. And it becomes very easy then to say, this is the current validation. This is how the system has been validated. And then the other thing that works as a backup also to show that this system is working for your site is during the build up. There is what we have done is create a training site whereby now that's where we do the build up, and also can serve as to show that this is how we actually built the study to ensure that it is correct as per protocol, before we go to the live section. Yeah.
And the validation you're referring to is the regulatory requirement for using a software.
Yeah.
I think it's 21 CFR 11 in FDA, and there's equivalent in EMA, and most national regulations are similar. But we understand them, and so we don't expect you to learn the regulations. We understand it. We give you the resources you need. So we try to make it as easy as possible. And Dr. Jackie, how have monitors come to use the system after they get used to it? Do you find that they like the system, that it's easier for them?
Yes, very much. Very, very much. They do like the system because it doesn't, it removes them from the space of bulk. You have to go through all these, files with all these all these visits. I have to review all these visits. It becomes very easy then to just, have a double screen where you can be able to do the SDV easily from Creo then to EDC. That is the electronic data capture that is required by the sponsor. Yeah.
Hi, guys. I would like to jump in and just let everybody know that we have 3 minutes left. And we take this a chance to maybe bring in somebody from the Nairobi County. Maybe Dr. Mendy from Chip Alliance would like to say something, or Nelson, and just to let those are still in attendance that we do have another webinar scheduled for Monday that I'll let Dr. Mendy from Chip Alliance. My name is Televezi Kasongo, and I'm the owner and consultant for Lila. Lila is part of Chip Alliance, and Chip Alliance has been working with the Nairobi County to bring this webinar. So I will go ahead and pass it over to the rest of the team. Dr. Mendy, do you have anything to say? Maybe Paul, anybody?
Probably just jump in and on behalf of the Nairobi City County Conference Planning Team, would like to say a big thank you to the presenters, to our partners Thrift. This is the first of 2 pre-conference webinars. The next one is on Monday, say around the same time. Kindly do register for the conference, which starts on Wednesday. And we're grateful for the quite insightful presentations we've gotten today. And would like to welcome Dr. Mandi if he's in a position to speak. Thank you. If not, then we can take it back to our host, the KNH research team, also our partner. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for such a wonderful webinar. Raymond, Dr. Jackie, everyone who submitted questions, and Harrison, thank you for jumping on last minute to do a quick demo for us. We really appreciate everyone taking the time to listen in and hear what we had to say today, and we hope to continue to share information and be in touch. Raymond shared his email during the presentation, but it is raymond@clinicalresearch.io. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you, Nelson. Oh, thank you.
Yes, thanks,
Thank
Kevin.
you. Bye.
All right, thank you to the Creo team for the wonderful presentations and the discussion, and also to special thank you to Dr. Jacqueline Mirera and to Ms. Kasongo as well for this webinar, and also to the LCCG Conference Committee for organizing these 2 series of the webinars. As informed, the next session will be on Monday. You will receive reminder emails 1 day before and also 1 hour before the event. So you can also invite your colleagues, your friends, anyone that you think will benefit from this particular conversations. Just share with them, and we can meet on Monday. As also communicated, the conference will be taking place in Nairobi next week from the 5th to 7th at Grand Argyle Hotel. You are welcome to register and join. There are more of these conversations that will be taking place, and you can also get to network with these teams as well. Thank you. My name is Nelson from KNH Research. I do hope you have a wonderful evening as we close this session.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Raymond, Brooke, and Dr. Jackie for attending, for presenting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
too for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
everyone.
Thank you.